Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject that I hope you'll keep an open mind about, because it concerns the concept of God. Now, most people either believe in God or they don't believe in it. Regardless of that, I wanted to create this video to give you a different perception and angle to look at the concept of God, so you can see how it could actually benefit you and your world, whether you believe specifically from a religious angle in it or not. It doesn't really matter. The point here is that we have to grasp the power of the creative spirit behind physicality. And once we grasp that power, and once we realize that we can use that power, that we're actually connected with that power through our own consciousness, well, then we can make wonderful things happen for ourselves and our worlds. So that's what I wanted to discuss today through this video. Finding God, our search for God, the creative spirit behind physicality. The whole premise of the rest of this video is based on the concept, the idea that we can never find God outside of ourselves. In our search for the creative spirit behind physicality, we don't look outside of ourselves, we learn to look inside of our own consciousness. We learn to see the inner self, which is operating with and through the body. Once we do this, we also get a better understanding of the concept of Christ, which is also pretty mysterious for most people. If we take it literal, if we wait for a person outside of ourselves to come save us, well, we could be waiting forever and ever, perhaps for hundreds, if not thousands of years, for somebody to come along. This is what most people do. Perhaps you still believe in that concept, and if you do, well, it's alright, but hopefully, again, you keep an open mind considering the rest of this video, because I wrote a couple of points that I wanted to share with you today to this video that can prove very useful for any serious student of metaphysics. So we will start this out by saying the following. The Christ mind is part of spiritual evolution and perfection. So physically life began and it grew. Then man came into being, meaning you. And you also grew, and physically man is capable of great feats. But beyond the physical form of man lies his consciousness, which can also evolve and expand and come to realize its own oneness with God. And once it does, Christ is born in that individual. For Christ is the symbol of mental evolution and oneness with the spirit of life. As it was written, I and my Father are one. Be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. We can only overcome the world individually if we all give birth to Christ inside our consciousness. We must understand the works of Christ before this power can be born in us. We can either know this unconsciously or we learn the truth consciously. For it was also written that Christ was born from a woman, who was made pregnant by God. This is again symbolism for a birth that takes place in the consciousness of the individual, a new identity, one no longer tied to the limitations of the former earthly man. And again, this was also said in scriptures. Put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. Contemplate the mind of Christ and let it be born inside of yourself in all its glory and freedom. For Christ enters your life once your own former consciousness has evolved into it, and therefore gave birth to it spiritually. Christ's mind is the pinnacle of spiritual evolution. Let that sink in, and ask yourself whether you are spending time on your own spiritual evolution, or whether you're only occupied with things of this world. Once you know Christ, you shall be like him, for your mind has become one with him, and it can be no other way, for that is the law and promise fulfilled. There's a golden thread running through the scriptures, and if you learn to see it and connect the dots, you see the whole picture of your own spiritual evolution itself. Don't take it all literal, what is in scriptures, but see the symbolism and then connect the golden thread of awakening that lies hidden within it. This revelation only came to me after I reached the age of 30. Before that time, I too had difficulty reading scriptures. And then again, Neville Goddard also said that the Bible can only be read and understood by a person who is spiritually aware. And so he phrased the sentence, it is salvation history. It is the autobiography of every human being. It is explaining the evolution of your own consciousness yet to come. Basically, what you want to do is start allowing the consciousness of Christ to enter your mind so you can learn to set the spiritual evolution of your own being in motion, which ultimately climaxes in you knowing the truth that you are one with the Father of all life. And as it was written, no one comes unto the Father except through me. We shouldn't be waiting for a person on the outside to come back to save us. Instead, we should work out our own salvation by rising in consciousness to the power and wisdom of God, which is available to us through our ability to form Christ's consciousness within ourselves. As scriptures also reminds us, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. Now let me stop here for a moment and remind you that this whole concept of Christ really depends on what you think of Christ, what you think it's all about, what would be your highest positive conception of this so-called Christ, because that is what sets the spiritual evolution inside your consciousness in motion. Because if you're confused on this matter, if you're thinking of Christ just as an individual that lived thousands of years ago, well then you have the wrong Christ in mind. Then you're not working with the power that is at hand right here, right now, inside of your very self, because that is how you awaken the power of Christ. It happens here and now, always in the now. There's no other time but now. So what sort of concept are you working with? This is very important to consider. Can you grasp that many passages can be connected to showcase the true picture of your own spiritual nature? Yes, there's many stuff that we might not understand in scriptures, but there's a golden thread, as I said before, through which, if combined, the full picture becomes visible concerning the mystery of Christ. In one of Neville's books, he said that the Bible was written in such a way to both hide the truth and reveal it to those who are ready. If we were to take this serious for a moment, we could better consider the idea that perhaps some parts are not meant to be taken so literal, while the true spiritual messages hidden within the scriptures reveal to us the glory of our own salvation if we understand and follow the pattern. I notice, for example, as long as I feel grateful, ideas keep flowing for videos, and something even more marvelous happens, which is that I literally feel it's not about the amount of views or money I make, but about the fact that if I keep feeling grateful to God, it keeps helping me and inspiring me to do good things. Then I can keep sharing, and of course, if we keep sharing and creating, sooner or later a response comes from the world anyway. So it's true, it does give me power to be thankful of God. The sort of power that helps me not be obsessed or worried over my physical life, but instead it reminds me, as long as I'm hooked up to power, I can keep expressing and creating, and the flow of imagination stays intact. Once you grasp that by being grateful the universe, also known as God, responds, then you got it right. But if we thank God verbally and think of a God outside of ourselves, then we got it wrong. So once you magnify that feeling inside your soul, of gratefulness, of gratitude, of being thankful, you notice you become increasingly more motivated and inspired to do things concerning your goals in life. Now another important part again is to remember the quote from scriptures. It is not I that doeth the works, but it is the Father within me. With this attitude of gratitude, you are actually setting this power of the so-called Father within you in motion, because you're using your mind in the right way. Assume that you are already what you want to be and have what you want, and live from that assumption. Forget about time, for the only time you have is this present moment. Because of this, it's a fallacy to worry over something happening in some future time. No, it will take on physical form right here and now. And as we keep it alive in our consciousness, from this angle it will start to be expressed. Yes, it seems to take time physically, but that shouldn't be any of your concern at all. For this is the reason people start to doubt and worry, become impatient and lose track of their own dreams altogether. All those are just mental distractions. If you live from the assumption that it already is so, and you simply feel the joy as if the dream was already realized, then it will keep being expressed with and through you, both energetically and physically, right now, and not in the future. So again, it is not I that doeth the works, the Father in me doeth the works. With this we realize it is not so much my body creating this stuff, but the consciousness of God inside of me compelling me to put it all together and to speak the words, for example, for this video. But in your life, it is the consciousness of God inside of you compelling you to do what needs to be done physically in order to get what you want. Neville talked about the pattern man, and that is what this is all about. The forming of Christ inside the mind is according to a certain spiritual pattern. So if we follow and apply the pattern, it is set in motion. Now the easiest way for me to put it is if you look at yourself in this manner. You have the outer you with a name, age and race. You have the inner you of imagination, the spiritual you. And then above that you have the power of God itself through which it all operates. Now one day you can feel it inside of yourself. At least it did for me after years of studying though. Even Neville said it usually takes a while. Now the inner you of imagination is the Son of God. That is Christ, which is the power of God and the wisdom of God. So it bears witness unto the truth that they might have life and may have it more abundantly. So how can you get a more abundant life, a better life? It's by exercising this power of imagination. That is part of your spiritual self. It's by exercising that inner self of yours so that you can redirect your physical self towards that direction in life. And so it alters your world. What I really noticed, and I hinted at this in my book, The Miracle of Wanting, but with less awareness at the time, was that if one pays attention, it is like you're giving yourself the realization of your dream. Now that was a statement of God nature, and there's no surprise there, since even if I write, I don't think about the words, they just flow from within. But if we really consider this and we look at our dreams and we realize it comes from consciousness, it is all dependent on whether I am in harmony with my dream without contradicting ideas, well then it's true, you start to give your physical self the realization of your invisible dreams. What then is making it so hard for people to achieve dreams? Well, it's easy. It's all because their limited human perception with doubts and worries creates a mental blockage. If this all dawns on a human being, they will instantly see how to set themselves free. Now this is also in alignment with finding God, because who is God? What is God? It's the creative spirit behind physicality, and that power operates with and through you, and you can set it in motion by using your consciousness, again in a certain way. It has to dawn upon you that your body cannot do anything of its own. It's just sitting there. If you're sitting right now, it would just be sitting there forever and ever, but it's your consciousness that will cause it to move in certain directions. Now, which direction are you facing inside your consciousness? This is so important. If you want to find the truth of your spiritual self, you're going to have to aim yourself there internally on a mental and emotional level first, because that is where the cause is. The cause of everything lies inside of yourself. Now after this idea hit me, and I built this new video, for example, that you're watching right now, I could sense an even greater awareness all over again. I can only do things if I'm aware of them inside my consciousness. Okay, what are most people aware of? Contradictions and limitations. But yet I have found the kingdom of God, or at least part of it, which confirms if one can rise in consciousness to the thing desired and see it there first, then it will quickly rush into form. So basically, the more clearer we make our dreams, the faster we can manifest them. And if you have multiple talents or creative goals, then it's true. In your case and in my case, what I did first was make sure one part was to my liking, which in this case was the inspirational videos that you're currently watching. Then months later, the ideas for my music videos came, because I also make music in my spare time and I wanted to share them to my channel. Had no idea, but over time I figured it out. After that, I'm also working on another channel of mine that deals with horror related themes, because I also want to share fictional stuff over there eventually. But you see, these ideas all started to flow after I became in harmony within my own consciousness with the goal desired, with the thing desired. So with all this in mind, I now realize that all I have to do is see it in my mind, and then I can make it in my world. No big deal there. Now again, it's not about the viewers or money. In your case, it shouldn't be about physical stuff alone when you're pursuing something, but it should be about how far you can expand your mind towards your own dreams. Now that is beautiful. With proper metaphysical students, we cannot deny, even I, that what I am doing now I could have done a year ago, but due to the mental limits, it could not happen. So the remedy I know from experience now is that if we keep thanking God and truly mean it, we feel truly thankful in our hearts every day and in love with life, man, your dreams rapidly unfold. And all limits drop away, and suddenly the ways become clear for you, since you've removed all contradicting thoughts and feelings from your own mind. It is then that the creative spirit of life can truly act through you and make everything better on the physical side of your being. You become happier, more energized, more successful, more inspired, more motivated, more wealthy, more healthy. Relationships improve, for you recognize others to be a part of the same creative spirit as you are. So what could you truly hate about another person? You might disagree with their actions, but behind their physical personality, they are still part of the same source as you are, and that source is God, the spirit behind all creation. Indeed, everything will improve, and it depends on our own attitude of mind. So you see, this whole search for God, everybody's actually searching for God. Even you are, whether you would admit this or not. What you're searching for is fulfillment, joy, happiness, harmony in life, and these are all elements of the spirit of life itself. The discords, the horror, the negative stuff that happens on planet Earth is all because of our misuse of the power of consciousness. Can't you see? So people might be like, oh, if God is that loving, why does he let bad things happen? Well, it's because God exists within you, not outside of you. God is inside of your own consciousness. It is you. And the way you're using your consciousness will determine what's going to happen. And again, God is all powerful, so therefore he can do negative things if he wants. You can do negative stuff if you want. I hope you don't, but other people might pick that route. Now it's up to them. But what are you going to do? Are you going to open up your mind to the Christ consciousness that resides within? It is that part of you that exists between your physical self and the God nature of the universe. That's Christ, that's the pattern that you must become aware of inside your consciousness, because once you do, it moves into activity. Now the way I figured out that it might quicken into activity on an easier level for most people is, again, if they pursue their dreams, if they pursue their passions in life, because they are God-given already. What you're passionate about is from God, is what God wants to express with and through you in this lifetime. So if you start doing that, you'll automatically become more familiar with God. If you do this with the awareness in your mind. If you do this unconsciously, you might miss the point. You might miss out on this great spiritual gift that is in store next to executing your passions in life. Now take this all to heart and really consider it, and with all the ideas we shared previously on this channel, they will all lead you to this revelation, because one day, as you keep pursuing and manifesting and achieving dreams in the world, it will dawn upon you and you start to wonder, can this same power with which I achieve dreams on earth also set me free? Can this power set me free? Can it really do it? And that is when you start to look inwardly. That is when the hunger and thirst comes upon you, not for physical things like food or water, but for the truth of God. Now these are the mysteries, the metaphysical mysteries concerning God and the Son of God, Christ. Now let all of this sink in. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.